Hi, I'm Jason Weinberger, conductor of the Waterloo Cedar Falls Symphony, welcoming you back to another episode of Music Makes Me, our series for curious young listeners. Now, today you get to meet one of the coolest members of the orchestra, trombonist Anthony Williams. And not only is Anthony an incredible trombone player, and you're going to get to hear that in this episode, but it's also amazing to hear him talk about music. And today, Anthony is going to tell us what it means to musically belong.
Hello there, my name is Anthony Williams. I'm the principal trombonist with the Waterloo Cedar Falls Symphony. I hope you enjoyed the performance of Maurice Ravel's Bolero. Such an amazing piece. Hey, I heard that you guys have been spending time talking about how music makes you feel with your teacher for the past couple of weeks. The beautiful thing about music is that we all react to it differently, and it's totally acceptable. I'm sure you were surprised by some of your classmates' reactions to the recording of Bolero that you checked out. Guess how music makes me feel? Well, I'll tell you. Music makes me feel like I belong. Today, I'd like to spend some time talking to you about how playing in an orchestra makes me feel like I belong. Talk a little bit about the trombone. Talk a bit about Bolero and how performing it makes me feel like I belong. Let's talk about playing in an orchestra and how it makes me feel like I belong. Well, you see, the orchestra is one big family of musicians striving for one goal, to create a beautiful performance for you, our audience. We can break the orchestra down into families of instruments, such as the strings, the woodwinds, the brass, and finally the percussion. We can take the brass section, to which the trombones belong, and break it down into two, into the high brass, which consists of the trumpets and horns, and the low brass, which is comprised of trombones and the tuba. And we can go even further. We can break the low brass down into the trombone section and the tuba. Now, the tuba doesn't really have another tuba to call family, so we let them come over and hang out with us because we're nice people. Okay, a little bit about the trombone. The trombone started to appear around 1450 in a city called Nuremberg, which is located in Germany. And over the next couple of years, it started to appear in other European countries, such as Italy, England, and France. Nowadays, you can see trombones in orchestras, wind ensembles, big bands, ska bands, reggae bands, R&B bands, salsa bands, you name it. The construction of the trombone is rather simple. It's comprised of three parts. The first of those three is the metal mouthpiece, which receives the vibrating column of air. It creates a buzz like so. Okay? That vibrating column of air that moves through the mouthpiece, or the buzz, is then passed through the slide section. And you get this type of sound. We can use that slide to manipulate the pitch. We can lower the pitch or raise the pitch. As the slide goes out, the pitch lowers. As the slide comes in, the pitch raises. The resulting sound exits the bell section and eventually comes out of this hole, which is called the bell flare. Now let's talk a little bit about bolero. Well, bolero was written for a ballerina named Ida Rubinstein, and it was premiered at the Paris Opera in 1928. Maurice Ravel's bolero was influenced by a Spanish folk dance from the late 1700s called the bolero. Its main characteristic was a repetitive melody to a 3-beat pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, over and over again. Does that sound familiar? I bet it does. The structure of Maurice Ravel's bolero is rather simple. It's comprised of a melody, which is comprised of 2 themes and paired with a simple accompaniment. The cool thing about bolero is the way that it's organized from the beginning to the end. It starts very simple and soft. It starts at a pianissimo dynamic with very few musicians, and it gradually adds in one musician at a time. How does he do this? Well, he gives each musician a solo. Each soloist presents the main theme. Over the next 16 minutes, everyone's added one by one until finally the entire orchestra is playing. It's very comparable to having a nice dinner or a large dinner. And one person sits at the table, and then another person sits at the table, and then there are 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, etc., until it's time to feast. That's what bolero reminds me of. Now, I'd like to play the trombone solo from Ravel's bolero. I hope you enjoy it. Well, I hope you enjoyed my interpretation of the trombone solo from Maurice Ravel's bolero. Now, as promised, I'm going to talk to you about how bolero makes me feel like I belong. The first reason is that I get to play a solo. I get to play that sonorous melody atop the orchestra with my colleagues supporting me. The second is a reversal of roles, where I get to play in an accompaniment role and support my colleagues when they get their turn to play the solo atop the orchestra. The third and final reason is for the last 2 to 3 minutes of the piece, where I get to play in unison, or tutti, with the orchestra. There's nothing like a full orchestra sound. All of those colors, the richness, the thickness of the texture, it's so invigorating and exciting. Guess what? No performance is finished until the audience is finished applauding. So doesn't that mean that you belong to the performance as well? I think so.